on the Gardener's Corner program, a good Friday morning to all of our viewers and listeners. We appreciate you checking us out here on WKRX 96.7 FM and TV Channel 10 on Charter Communications Channel 191. My name is Rob Hall. Glad to be here. The Gardener's Corner program brought to you today by Sandling Golf Cars, 501 Flea Market, and T.G. Brooks Company. Please make welcome all the way from the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, a man that gets up in the morning, looks in the mirror, and says,
"Oh no,
let's get with it and get down to business." The all-seeing, the all-knowing, the big kahuna himself, the man that is highly seasoned, and you can tell that by the color of his hair.
Get out the salt shaker.
Please make welcome Mr. Carl Cantalupi.
Thank you, Rob. Good morning.
Good morning to you, my friend. I hope things are well for you.
Yep, things are going good.
We are live in the studio today. We kind of took a road trip last week, and we were down at Sandling Golf Cars in Oxford, live on remote. We had a good time, and they had it really set up neat for us down there at Sandling Golf Cars. We was inside of the showroom, and I think they had the AC on about 60 degrees, and
it was cool.
Real nice and comfortable inside. It sure was. And, the last couple of days it hadn't been overwhelmingly hot, but, Carl, from what I understand, the hot weather is going to come back in over the weekend, and next week they say heat index values between 102 and 105.
Wow. Gee.
And, not only is the hot weather hard on people and animals, it's also hard on, vegetation.
Sure it is. At those temperatures, you can expect tomato blossoms to dry up and fall off, tomatoes, peppers, and, high temperatures, you can start to notice a different coloration of tomatoes. The fruits, you'll experience some yellowing around the shoulder end of the tomato. It's called yellow shoulders, so that's due to hot temperatures as well.
And I believe you have said anything around 90 plus degrees is really tough on the tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
We are live in the studio today. If you've got a question for Carl, you can call 336-599-0266. That number again, 599-0266. Here we are, Carl, pretty much just a little halfway through July, and the gardens are coming in good. And as far as insects and things for this time of the year, it's a busy time of the year for the insects as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And plants at my house, my wife has some gourds, and she didn't want me to spray anything, so it's an excellent area for seeing all kinds of insects and diseases occurring. And so here, when you look on the as you look on the TV screen, you'll see a picture of squash bug eggs. This is what they look like. They kind of cluster themselves on the both on the upper and lower surfaces of the leaf, and they're kind of maroon shaped. Maroon colored and egg shaped. And so if you see these, you can squash these very easy with your finger. And then after these eggs hatch, they hatch into the immatures or the nymphal stages of the squash bug. And at this stage, they can be relatively easily controlled with malathion. But then as they grow and they get into the adult stage, as you see here, there's not much you can do at this point. There's really nothing that's going to take them out. And then here's a picture of a squash leaf that have all the life cycle stages of the squash bug. So constant vigil, squashing the eggs, spraying with malathion on the immatures. This will this will help quite a bit. Whoops, boy, I am getting bad today with not knowing which buttons to push.
Well, Carl, I think it must be something in the air because earlier today I was having trouble with phone numbers. But little things happen, so.
Yeah,
But now, Carl, with the spraying of chemicals and things like that to control insects, one very important thing to do is to read the label, because sometimes it depends on how close your vegetables are to being able for you to harvest them. You should read the labels to make sure that when you apply chemicals to your, vegetable plants, that you will not be causing any harm to yourself
that's right.
of harvesting these vegetables.
Always observe the waiting interval. That means the number of days that you have to wait from applying the pesticide until you harvest it. And we get these comments all the time from people, especially with tomatoes. If you're using a fungicide like Maneb or Daconil, and it might have a 4 or 5 day wait on the label, well, then the people say, well, I have ripe tomatoes out there now. If I spray with a fungicide, by the time they're if they're red ripe, I can't wait 4 or 5 days because they'll be rotten. Well, the thing to do is never to wait until a tomato fruit is red ripe on the vine, because if that happens, then the tomato can come down with insects and diseases. And so the thing to do is, before you spray insecticides or fungicides, pick the fruit that are ready to be picked. And by that I mean fruit that you can already start to notice a color change from a green to a whitish color on the bottom of the fruit, or you can even wait until the fruit starts to show a little pink color. At that point, ethylene has been released in that ripening tomato, and it will go ahead and ripen up just as easily off the plant as it will on the plant, because once that ethylene is released, it doesn't make any difference, if that tomato is still attached to the plant or not. It's going to ripen up. So if you do that and you go ahead and pick the fruits first, then spray, you'll have plenty of time to satisfy that waiting interval. So don't, a lot of people think that tomatoes need to ripen up on the vine. They really don't. But a lot of people will argue that until they die. But, the fact of the matter is, ethylene is going to be released whether the fruit is still attached to the plant or not. So pick them early.
So whenever you hear the term vine ripened tomatoes, that's nothing special, really.
It isn't. And a lot of people accuse, especially during the winter months, they accuse tomatoes of not having much flavor, and to a certain extent that's true, because varieties that are bred for long distance shipping might not have the best flavor. But the way to ripen up tomatoes in the home, first of all, never put them in the refrigerator, because that will cause chilling injury, and you'll get these little pits on the fruit, and that'll lead to premature spoilage. Put the fruit in a paper bag, close the top. You might even include an apple or a banana in as well, and you can do that right now from mature green fruits that we pick in the garden. Add an apple or a banana to them in a paper bag, close the top. So this will concentrate the ethylene vapors in a small area. So the ethylene that's released from the apple or the banana will trigger the ethylene to be released in the tomato for faster ripening.
Carl, something else about the tomatoes. When you were talking about it, I thought of Mr. Greg Goins from the produce auction.
Yeah,
he would say, we got a box of breaker tomatoes.
That's
here.
right. And he had the comment once, well, here's some breakers, and here's some that aren't broke yet. He was a character.
He is. He's a good fella. I like to laugh and joke
Yeah.
and carry on with him. But you know, and a lot of people, you know, have the perception that, you know, if you get a tomato off the vine, maybe need to put it in the windowsill, you know, where the sun can shine on it to help ripen it up. You don't need to do all that.
No.
Just put it inside, you know, on the counter, and it'll ripen up
Nope.
just as well on the counter as it will in the windowsill.
That's it. And, you know, again, sunlight is not needed for tomatoes to ripen. It's the ethylene that ripens tomatoes, and sunlight, of course, you know, creates warm temperatures, and that will certainly help. But, yeah, there's no sense in putting it on the windowsill because that's, you know, that'll be sun scald the fruit just as if they're in the garden and your tomato leaves die out due to a fungus disease like septoria. You got the fruits exposed to the sun, and then you get this whitish discoloration on the fruit. Then the tissue breaks down, and then you get secondary fungi that move in that just complete the job of rotting. So you always want to encourage leaf cover around your tomato plants because you don't want fruits to be exposed to the sun because they'll get sun scalded and then they'll break down rapidly.
And you know, it's kind of a happy medium, so to speak. You know, you need sunshine to make things grow, but you know, the extreme sunshine and heat it's really tough on them. And something that you really need to be paying close attention to. I know we've been getting, you know, sporadic showers from time to time. We hadn't had any in the last few days. It's a slight chance of rain today, but you need to keep a pretty close check on your soil moisture level.
Mm-hmm.
If you get the old screwdriver out and if it's real hard to push in the ground, you know what? It's dry.
Yeah.
And, you know, with your plants going from, you know, from being soaking wet to bone dry, it's not good for them. Try to maintain a constant moisture level. And now I know it's a lot of people have gardens planted in places to where it's not that easy to get water to them and things like that. But if you've got raised garden bed areas close by your house, you know, that is something that you need to bear in mind when planting. You know, it's really nice when the Lord and Mother Nature, you know, sends enough rain that you don't have to irrigate.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not always the case. So when you're thinking about, you know, planting gardens and things like that, that needs to be one of the thoughts that enters your mind. How will I water this garden should we not get the rain that we need?
That's right,
And
yeah.
so just need to kind of bear those thoughts. Carl, just kind of looking ahead down the road, for those people that would be interested in having some pumpkins about Halloween, when would be a good time to plant pumpkin seed?
Now's the time to plant pumpkins if you haven't done so already, to give them enough time to mature, until Halloween. The danger of planting them too early is that you get good plant growth, and then the vines start to break down with fungus diseases, and they expose the fruit, and then they don't have a long shelf life. So by Halloween, you might not have pumpkins, you know, still around. But now it's definitely a good time to to plant those.
Any recommended varieties of pumpkin you think is best to plant around here?
Oh gosh, it's just the sky's the limit. There's all different kinds of pumpkins that you can plant. It just according to what you like. You know, if you want a small pumpkin, you want a large pumpkin, and of course, you know, they have the big ones like Big Macs, that or Atlantic Giant is another huge one that they enter in the, you know, in county fairs all over.
Well, you know, Carl, one of the programs that we carry here at the radio station on the weekends is Bill Gaither's Homecoming. And it's a gospel program with Mr. Bill Gaither and friends. But it's kind of neat. They have some little things on there that bring a smile to your face and maybe make you chuckle. But I think on the program last week they was talking about pie, about like the top 10 pies, and I think the number one pie was an apple pie, but I think maybe like in slot 2 or 3 was the pumpkin pie. So that gave me an idea. I think I'm gonna plant a lot of pumpkins, so maybe I can get my mother to bake some pumpkin pies. So anyway, do you think I'm on the right course for that?
Yeah, you can, but remember, the best pumpkin pies are not made from pumpkins.
What?
Made from winter squash.
Winter squash.
Winter squash, blue Hubbard squash. That's right.
I've never had a squash pie.
Well, you have if you bought canned pumpkin in the grocery store. Because we know that even though it says pumpkin on the can, Libby's, probably one of the largest pumpkin processing plants, have fields and fields of blue Hubbard squash growing right around the plant in Peoria, Illinois.
Well, I was just kind of teasing Carl. I did know that.
He knew it, I know.
And the way that I have known that is I've heard Carl say that a great number of years, and sometimes back he actually brought in a Hubbard squash.
That's right.
So, I guess that's pretty much like Carl. I know you've said in the past, sweet potatoes are marketed as yams, and muskmelons are marketed as cantaloupe.
That's right.
So why not market, the Hubbard squash as pumpkin pie?
Yeah. Well,
anything to make it sell.
Yeah. Well, and the secret is that the flesh of a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, it doesn't have the best color, and it's all ropey and stringy texture to it. So, and I'm sure that some of you have tried to make a pumpkin pie out of a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, it wasn't a real pleasant experience. But if you have a Hubbard squash, which has a rough, warty-looking exterior, you cut into it, and the flesh is smooth and creamy, and it has a nice deep orange color to it. What processors like. But
now the Hubbard squash is not grown much in this area, is it?
It's not, but that's not to say it can't be.
Right.
It certainly could, and then you'd have a nice source for pumpkin pie then.
Right. Well, let's get a word on for 501 Flea Market. They are open indoors on Saturdays from 7 a.m. until 2 p.m., Sundays 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. The 501 Flea Market is right out here on Durham Road, kind of across from KFC. So if you've got time tomorrow morning, why not ride out to 501 Flea Market? Here's more information. If you're looking something to do this weekend, why not make a trip out to 501 Flea Market and shop with the indoor vendors? They've got a huge selection of items indoors at the 501 Flea Market, located 2285 Durham Road across from KFC. They're open Saturdays, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m., Sundays, 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. The indoor vendors at 501 Flea Market has antiques, books, coins, collectibles, clothing items, fresh produce, furniture, Hot Wheels, incense, jewelry, knives, movies, both DVD and VHS. You can also find pottery, office furniture, signs, tools, and good food. Something for all ages can be found indoors at the 501 Flea Market. No matter what the weather may be, you'll find it delightful inside of the 501 Flea Market, located 2285 Durham Road, across from KFC. Open Saturdays, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m., Sundays, 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. It's a 501 Flea Market indoors this weekend. Here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program. Carl, we've got a caller.
All right, very good.
Good morning. Thank you for calling the Gardener's Corner program.
Rob, I don't mean to change up y'all's conversation, but I was just wondering if you could ask Carl if it's too late to do anything with crabgrass. If it's not, what can you do to get a control on it?
Yes, it really is too late to do something with crabgrass, because if you have crabgrass there, crabgrass is an annual. It's only going to die anyway in the fall when the temperatures get cold. To put a pre-emergence crabgrass control on now probably wouldn't do you much good, because I don't think there's very many crabgrass seeds that are germinating now. So the best thing to do is just probably do nothing, and then just let the crabgrass die out. And then next year, follow up with pre-emergence herbicides, granular pre-emergence herbicides in March and April.
All righty.
Did you by chance get the message I left you late yesterday afternoon?
Yeah, I did, and I appreciate it. I was going to call you back, but I didn't get your message until about 9 o'clock last night.
Well, that's all right. Even though you weren't there in person, you were there in thought. So that's what counts, I guess.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate your call. All right. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Carl, that's a good question right there. And I've heard you say before, and I'm not smart enough to remember about all the things, but it's a lot of things that you can have to come up in your yard that you can spend all kinds of money on to try to control, where in some cases you would be wasting your money, so to speak, correct?
Exactly, and crabgrass is no exception. Again, it is an annual. It's going to die out anyway, and the problem is that there's really nothing. There's no liquid herbicide that's going to be selective enough to kill the crabgrass out and not harm your lawn grass as well. So the best thing to do is just, again, let it grow, and then next year be ready with the pre-emergence granular crabgrass control to control your crabgrass.
Would be a good time, one more time, to try to drill it in this concrete brain of mine, the difference between a annual and a perennial is.
Okay, an annual is a plant that completes its life cycle in 1 year. It goes from seed to seed in 1 year. So annual flowers, marigolds, zinnias, all kinds of annual plants. Those are annuals. You plant them this year, they get killed by frost. Sometimes they might scatter their seed beforehand, and you might find a surprise next year. You'll have some come up. A perennial plant is one that grows. Then the top part of the plant dies, but the root system is still remains alive to go ahead and grow the following year.
So the perennial is something that will come back
Every year.
But the annual is started from seed.
It started from seed, and or you can buy
the plants
themselves.
Okay.
But the annuals are tender, and they'll be killed by frost, and then you have to start out with new plants the following year.
All right. Well, I think we got a caller.
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you for calling the Gardener's Corner program.
Yes, I got a question. Got a problem with some little worms, so like 1 inch long. You put down Sherburne dust, and that will kill them. But these worms, my understanding, comes out of the ground.
Okay. Yeah. What you're probably speaking of are millipedes, and we're seeing them because we've had rain. And a lot of rain depletes the soil and the organic matter from oxygen. So the millipedes rise to the top, and then they start coming in houses. They're small insect relatives that if you touch them, they curl up into a ball. The recommendation is not to use any insecticide. Just vacuum or sweep them up, and then once they're out of the soil and they crawl around the concrete surfaces and in the house, they don't have moisture anymore, so they'll just dehydrate and die. So just vacuum and sweep them up, and pretty soon they'll disappear about as fast as they came.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
We got thousands.
Oh, sure.
Where are you seeing them at?
Mayo Lake.
But I mean, are they on the driveway, on the carport, in the house, or just all over?
Around, yeah, all over around the foundation of the house and
Yeah.
serving dust down. But the white now, the ones that it kills, it's the over top of the mulch is just white with worms.
Would it be? It couldn't be grub worms this early, could
No,
it?
okay. These are dark, you said, right?
Yeah, they're dark when they come out, but once they die and the sun shines on them, they kind of turn white.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. I know it's easy to say if you're overrun with them, but it isn't going to do much good for you to powder, your whole area with insecticide, because they'll only die naturally without moisture, and they will go back. The ones that are close to the mulch, once the mulch and the soil drains, they're going to go back down into the soil.
Now, if you're concerned that it's not the millipede, just get some of them and put into a plastic bag and take them by the Cooperative Extension Service office, and they would look at them and identify them for you. But I've seen them before, and I mean it's almost like ants. Wow, I didn't know there was this many of them in the world.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that's probably what you have, and a lot of people get alarmed and concerned. But as I say, once the soil dries out and then conditions moderate again, they'll disappear just about as fast as they came.
Well, so it's nothing that you could put down that would kill them?
No, not really. The insecticides really don't do a good job, in controlling them. So.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All
Hey,
right,
good
thanks for
question.
calling.
Appreciate your call. Thank you.
But this is what they look like for the people that are watching the TV.
For those of you folks that are maybe checking the Gardener's Corner program out on the radio, sometimes when you're close to a computer, log on to RadioRoxboro.com. That's RadioRoxboro.com. And you can check out past shows of the Gardener's Corner program on the website. And one thing that is pretty neat for those folks that do not watch the Gardener's Corner program on TV Channel 10, Carl has a huge amount of different pictures in his computer that he is able to put up on the screen of the TV. And if you check it out on RadioRoxboro.com, you can see some of those pictures as well. And that way you could kind of see the picture that he just had up on the screen a little while ago about the millipedes and stuff like that. And I think he's actually getting ready to put a picture up on the screen to show the different stages of green tomatoes.
Right, and people that are looking at it on TV can see this. This shows maturity stages of tomatoes, and MG stands for mature green. And when you cut into a tomato, depending on the stage of ripeness, you'll see different things. First of all, if you pick what is called an immature green tomato, you slice it open, and the locular gel has not formed yet in the tomato fruit, and the knife will cut the seeds. But the tomato will go from an immature green to a mature green stage. At the mature green stage, you slice through the tomato, you see the locular gel has formed. The knife will slip by the seeds and not cut them. And this is the point when ethylene is starting to be released in the fruit. And then all the way at the end of the slide shows the breaker stage. That's when you start to notice a break in the color from a green into a pink color. And you can see when you look at the tomatoes that are all the way over to the right, you can see how a tomato ripens. It ripens from the inside out. So you'll actually see the red coloration from the tomato on the inside and then on the outside. So picking it in the breaker stage in the garden is ideal because you know that the ethylene has been released and the fruits will go ahead and ripen up just fine. So those are the different stages. Remember, keep tomatoes out of the refrigerator. Let them ripen up at room temperature. And if you want slow ripening, just leave them out on the counter and don't put them in the bag, and they won't ripen up as quickly as if you do place them in a closed paper bag.
Carl, just when you were talking about the tomatoes, I got to thinking about potatoes.
Okay.
I guess it's time for, people to maybe start harvesting Irish potatoes and things like that.
Right.
And, one of the greatest things when you raise your own potatoes, when they are getting close to being ready for you to plow them up and harvest them, we call it graveling potatoes, where you go out there and you dig a few out from under the vine. And, you call them new potatoes.
That's right.
Man, those things are some kind of delicious.
They are, and they bring premium prices too.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
they sure do. But what I was going to say, Carl, now, and I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot.
Okay.
I know we had a really wet spring. Do you think it's going to turn out that we have had a wet summer this year? And I'll tell you why I'm asking after you answer that question.
Will we continue to have a wet summer? I don't know.
Well, but what I'm saying, do you think that the rain and everything that we have had over the last month or so, does that constitute to being a wet summer?
Probably, I guess, if you look at statistics, yeah.
And the reason that I was asking, I know that you have said in the past that sometimes when it's about time to harvest Irish potatoes, they can have little bumps and stuff on them, and that sometimes comes from moisture. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep. And that's what I'm trying to find here on my.
And that's
in
why
my
I was
slides.
leading up to that question.
Okay.
So.
Well, sure.
But yes, absolutely. Those new potatoes, it's nothing, in my opinion, no better to where if maybe you've got, I'm going to call them snaps. A lot of people call them green beans. Some people call them string beans. Whatever you call them, they're good. Maybe if you had some of those.
Absolutely.
Some new potatoes. Some tomatoes.
Yep.
And if you had some squash, now you know what? That'd be a really good vegetable plate for sure, wouldn't it?
It certainly would, Rob. This is a Irish potato. This is a red variety, and you can see as you were mentioning before, sometimes you get bumps on the potatoes when you harvest them, and these little bumps are not caused by an insect or a disease. This is just a physiological phenomenon, meaning that pertaining to the plant itself. And these structures are called enlarged lenticels. A lenticel is a breathing pore in the potato, and usually these are on the potato, but they remain kind of inconspicuous. But if we get a lot of water, the water makes these lenticels raise up, and so this is what you see. So there's nothing wrong with this potato. You can certainly still eat it. And you remove this when you peel them, but all it is a condition known as enlarged lenticels, and it's brought about by excessive soil moisture. But as you can see, the potato, other than the lenticels, it looks sound, and there's nothing wrong with it at all.
Well, Carl, while we're on the topic of potatoes, I know you have said that like in Idaho and other potato-producing states,
right,
that they've got all these potatoes planted, and then they go through the field and spray to kind of more or less kill the vines.
Right.
And they just leave the potatoes in the ground. With the climate and everything, that's the best way that they can store them.
Right, because that gives the potato a chance to produce a thick skin while in the ground. Now, you can't do that down here because of the soil temperatures are warm, because we have warm air temperatures. So usually when we harvest potatoes down here, the vines start to die, and that's a good indication to harvest them. But it's not a good idea to leave them in the soil, because the potato cannot develop a good thick skin if the soil temperatures are hot. So we have to harvest them, and then we pretty much have to use them as quick as we can. Or, you know, again, the best place to store Irish potatoes is in the refrigerator. That inhibits shriveling and sprouting. And another point that you were making before, Rob, about in large potato growing areas, they spray the vines with a material that causes the vines to die rapidly. Actually, it's the same material that they use to prevent suckering here in tobacco, maleic hydrazide, otherwise known as MH.
30, really? Wow.
That's what's used, and that also serves as a sprout inhibitor. So once you know the vines are sprayed, the vines died, but some of that, you know, will translocate down into the potato, and that's fine. It's not going to hurt you, but that's why we say never start Irish potatoes from potatoes that you buy at the grocery store, because if they've been treated with a sprout inhibitor, they won't sprout. And
Right.
so it's always best to buy seed potatoes. We call certified seed potatoes, that are grown in areas where they have strict sanitation regulations, so you don't import diseases on the tubers that you plant. But yeah, maleic hydrazide is used as a sprout inhibitor of in potatoes.
So say that name again.
Maleic, M-A-L-E-I-C, I think, M-A-L or M-A-L-A-E-I-C, hydrazide, H-Y-D-R-A-Z-I-D-E, maleic hydrazide.
And that means MH.
That's right.
Wow. Carl, and you know, it seems to me that the way that people used to store potatoes around here, after they harvested them, they would put them in a building.
In a cellar or something
And
like
kind
that.
of maybe put them up in a pile, but kind of have them in a dark, cool area. And you don't want any sunlight to shine on them, because
Right.
I think we've all seen to where when the sunlight shines on a potato, it will kind of turn it a green tint.
That's correct.
And that's not good for the potato, and I've been told it's not good to eat it. But now I'm not sure.
It's a bitter alkaloid substance. It's called solanine. And if you eat enough of that material, it can make you sick. So this is why when we plant potatoes in the garden, we plant the seed pieces, and then just as the shoots start to appear, up from the ground, we mound soil around that potato plant until we get maybe about a 12-inch high mound of soil. So this protects the potatoes from being, it makes the tubers develop in cool, loose soil, and then and not be exposed to the sunlight. Because if you don't do that, the tubers will be exposed to the sunlight, causing them to turn green. So that's why we do that.
Just one other thing about potatoes, Carl. When you decide to cook some of those new potatoes, whether you have squash and onions with them, or fresh corn on the cob, or green beans, butter beans, or peas, I like it all. So, you know, don't worry about planning the meal just for me, because I like it any way you fix it.
That's right.
We need to get a word on for one of our fine supporting sponsors. Let's head out to T.G. Brooks Company and stop in and see the friendly folks right there. Now, you know what? plumbing supplies, cold beverages, landscaping supplies, mulch by the scoop, and hand cut ribeyes available at T.G. Brooks Company. You know, Carl, with those newly dug Irish potatoes, one of those hand cut ribeyes sure would be good. Wouldn't it?
You sure would.
Let's take a trip to T.G. Brooks Company.
This month of July, two things are important to a lot of us here in Person County. Number one is getting those delicious vegetables and pickles put up for the winter, whether you grew them or bought them at one of the two farmers markets. T.G. Brooks Company has all your canning jars in half pints, quarts, half gallons, and they have the pressure cookers, bath canners, strainers, funnels, in fact, all of your canning supplies. They offer the stone jars for pickling, too. The second thing is keeping everything green, and T.G. Brooks Company can handle all kinds of watering needs. First of all, they have sprinklers, water hose, sprayers, and water hose parts. They have irrigating equipment. T.G. Brooks Company has your piping for irrigating. They have gas-powered pumps. Keep everything green and keep that vegetable harvest coming in strong. Also, it's time to beautify your property while you're out of doors. They offer so many kinds of mulch in bulk form or bagged. You can get your mulch by the large scoop. They have delivery service available too. Bring your truck, trailer, and they'll load it up for you. When it comes to yard tools to do the work, they have your hose, diggers, choppers, and yard tools, everything you need to beautify. By the way, T.G. Brooks reminds everyone that they have dog fences and dog food by the bag. Be sure to enjoy the day with your family by ending the day and a delicious hand-cut ribeye steak sold and cut to your width and cook it up on the grill. T.G. Brooks Company has served the farmer, homeowner, and landscaper in the area since 1936.
Here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program, brought to you today by T.G. Brooks Company, 501 Flea Market Indoor Vendors, and we'll get a word on in just a few minutes for Sandline Golf Cars. Appreciate the telephone calls today, and again, you know, if you got something going on in your landscaping, your garden, around the house, if you've got, you know, maybe some insects that you're not aware of, just basically get one of these or a few of these insects, put them into a Ziploc bag, or maybe if you've got, you know, something growing on some of your plants or trees or whatever, get a sample of it, put it into a plastic bag, take it into the Cooperative Extension Service, and many times they can identify it right off the bat. If not, they will do some research to help determine what problem you may be facing, and many times, and in most cases, they can offer a solution to the problem.
That's right. Another thing that's occurring right now is sun scald on tomatoes. Actually, I saw some yesterday that, again, after the heavy rains, it seems to accelerate septoria leaf spot. And what it does, it just defoliates the tomato vines, and it leaves the fruits exposed to the sun. So this is what a tomato looks like that has been exposed to the sun. You see the tissue break down, it turns white, and pretty soon the secondary fungi move in and start rotting the fruit. So this is why you want to encourage good leaf cover around the plants at all times. Here you see 3 tomato fruits again, and you see the leaves are gone, so they're exposed. Here's one that's just starting to show symptoms, and here's another one. Here's that same one, actually, that you can see the spot produced. And then we talked before about continuing high temperatures over 90 degrees will cause the lycopene, which is the red pigment in tomatoes, not to develop under high temperatures, but the yellow pigments come out. And this is called solar yellowing or yellow shoulders. Nothing wrong with the fruit, just makes it look kind of funny, but that's what that's caused by.
All right, hold up, Brad, there just a minute.
Okay.
for those folks looking at the TV screen, they can see that solar yellowing. Let's talk about this just real briefly.
Okay.
You got red tomatoes, then you got yellow tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of people have the conception that yellow tomatoes or low acid tomatoes, but that's not true, is it, Carl?
That's not true. Years ago, a scientist, I think with the USDA, did a study where he measured the pH of all different kinds of tomatoes, different colors, yellow tomatoes, red tomatoes, orange tomatoes, and they found out the pH did not vary very much. What people think that yellow tomatoes are low in acid, but they're not. They still have the same pH. What they do have is a higher sugar content, and that higher sugar content makes people think that they're low acid, but that's not true.
Anyway, just seeing that picture on the screen there is
But
what,
that's a good
what made
point.
me think about that.
That's a good point.
Hey, we need to get a word on for Sandling golf cars, and after we take a trip to Oxford, we'll be back to wrap up this edition of the Gardener's Corner program. Again, we appreciate you all tuning in, and we'll be right back after this message from Sandling Golf Cars.
Let's make a trip to Oxford and stop in at 613 Lewis Street, and we will be at Sandling Golf Cars. That's the place where you can find club car and easy-go golf cars. Sandling Golf Cars has new and pre-owned golf cars. If you are wanting a gasoline and electric, basic to fully customized golf car, see Al, Hillary, or Will at Sandling Golf Cars, where financing is available. Call 919-693-4626 or toll free 1-800-221-9267. Visit their website, www.sandlinggolfcars.com. Check out the XRTs by Club Car, powered by a gasoline or diesel engine. These rugged, durable, and dependable machines are strong enough to handle anything around the farm, home, or lake. For all of your golf car repairs, parts, service, and Trojan batteries, see Bradley, Dennis, and Jr. It's grilling season, and you would enjoy grilling out on a Wilmington grill from Sandling Golf Cars. Call 919-693-4626 or toll free 1-800-221-9267. Log on to sandlinggolfcars.com, or better yet, stop in at 613 Lewis Street in Oxford, just off the bypass, and see the friendly folks at Sandling Golf Cars. Open weekdays 8 a.m. until 5:30 p.m. and Saturdays 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. That's Sandling Golf Cars, where you can also find the trailer you need to haul just about anything you need hauled.
All righty, here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program. Carl, we got just a couple of minutes, and today is one of those times, which it happens this way quite often. Time just kind of slips away from us.
It does.
Any kind of closing remarks or comments?
Just go out to the garden and just look around, see what you can find. A lot of times, as Barney Fife used to say, you can nip things in the bud.
Nip it in the bud. Yeah.
Just by staying on top of things and then controlling it. Sometimes just simple as pulling off a diseased leaf. If you just have a few on the plant, and there's no need to spray,
Right.
but you want to reduce that fungus inoculum by pulling off the leaves. So and if you see squash bug eggs on a squash plant, gonna squash those. No pun intended. And you can get rid of a lot of problems that way.
One other thing, and we'll talk more about it next week. Make mention of, if you would, of your asparagus twilight meeting.
Asparagus twilight meeting coming up on Thursday, August the 6th. That's 6 o'clock in the evening, 980 Flem Clayton Road, about 2 miles north of Roxborough on 57. Take a ride on Flem Clayton until it dead ends. We'll be talking about asparagus production and also rhubarb as well.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that meeting next week on the Gardener's Corner program. That'll wrap it up for us today, brought to you by Sandling Golf Cars. T.G. Brooks Company, and 501 Flea Market indoor vendors. Special thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to our listeners and our viewers. And appreciate the telephone calls today. And we look forward to being back with you next week for another edition of the Gardener's Corner program. On behalf of Mr. Carl Cantalupi, David Jr. Bratcher, as we affectionately know him as Kilby, and myself, Rob Hall, thanks for tuning in to the Gardener's Corner program.